My name is Michael, and this is my Glissa the Traitor EDH deck tech. This deck is a Voltron control deck that runs a few combos to kind of help us in the game. So the point of Glissa is to basically recur artifacts that have fallen to the bin, and yeah, she's a really great, nice, helpful commander. So first up we have our 6 forests and 6 swamps here. Next we have our 5 fetch lands to help us color correct. So we have a Wooded Foothills, a Windswept Heath, a Misty Rainforest, a Verdant Catacombs, and a Marsh Flats. Next up we have our lands that tap for the 2 colors that we need. So we have a Woodland Cemetery, a Command Tower, why is it out of focus? A Tainted Wood here, an Overgrown Tomb, and a Bayou. Next up we have our fast ramp lamps. So we have a Ancient Tomb here and a Temple of the False God. Now we're moving on to the utility lands. So first up is Strip Mine to get rid of pesky lands. Vesuva usually copies a Cabal Coffers, or it can also copy some other powerful land that's on the board. Next up we have the Thespian Stage and Dark Depths combo here. So for 2 mana and the cost of 2 lands, we can get a 20/20 Flying Indestructible Merit Lage token. Next up, Boseiju helps us force our Exsanguinate, our Genesis Wave, and our Tooth and Nail out. Maze of Ith, it can play a political role in a multiplayer game, or it can really help us against a big beater that's coming our way, or just some Voltron deck. Next up, we have the couple Cabal Coffers and Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth. Usually, you can just tap the Cabal Coffers for an insane amount of mana as long as you have the Urborg out. Next up we have our 2 cycle lands, Tranquil Thicket and Barren Moor. Work really well with Life from the Loam and Dredging. High Market allows us to gain a life, which is, we need to gain as much life as we can in this deck, because we're going to be losing a lot of life with some of the cards that we have. And it also allows us to get some value off of a board wipe here. Forbidden Orchard is mainly here for the Mindslaver lock. It's really great 1v1, multiplayer not so great. You kind of have to play the political game at that point. Volrath's Stronghold allows us to basically get back a creature from the bin that had either been milled out of our deck or was a fallen soldier on the battlefield. So a really powerful land there. Bojuka Bog, it's just a hate land against other graveyard strategy decks. Next up we have our accelerators here. So we have the standard Thran Dynamo, the Golgari Signet, Exploration to get the extra land drop in, Mindstone, really love this card. If we find that we don't need the extra mana, we can sacrifice it to draw a card. Mana Vault helps us cheat out some of our bigger costing spells a bit quicker. Sol Ring does the same thing. Mox Diamond basically comes in for free. Discarding a land is not a big deal because we have so much graveyard recursion. Lotus Petal, my theory behind it is if I can use this twice in a game, or maybe 3 times, then it's done its job. Mana Crypt, just powerful acceleration. It's 2 colorless. It can burn us out though. Chrome Mox, it's really situational. You got to make some tough decisions when you play this card in this deck, because a lot of the cards are going to be really, really helpful. Oracle Moldiah helps us get the extra land drop in and allows us to play lands off the top of our library. I mean, our opponents get to see what's coming up next, but as long as it's not a Kozilek or a Blightsteel, then we won't be the arch enemy of the table, hopefully. Solemn Simulacrum helps us ramp, and also when it dies, we get to draw a card. Just overall, a lot of value there. Azusa allows us to play 2 additional lands. Really great with Crucible of Worlds. Cryptghast, the add 1 black mana whenever you tap a swamp is good, but the Extort is what really makes this a powerful card in this deck, because we need to gain as much life as possible, because we're going to be draining ourselves a lot. Deathrite Shaman allows us to hate on other people's yards and get value off of it. Next up, we have a few top deck manipulation cards that are specifically in here for Dark Confidant, and they're also great in general. Mary's Guile allows us to look at the top 3 cards of our library at the beginning of our upkeep and rearrange them in any order. Well, actually, not at the beginning, but at during some point of the upkeep. Sensei's Divining Top, pay 1 mana, look at the top 3 cards. We can also flip the top to draw a card that we need ASAP. Scroll Rack allows us to set aside dead cards in our hand and look at a fresh new batch of cards equal to the number of dead cards we put away. Dark Confidant, really, a lot of people consider it a hit or a miss. Odds are this will be a big hit in our deck, and it will allow us to speed up the game, and hopefully we can manipulate the top deck enough to the point where we can pretty much just lose an average of maybe 1 life per time of the flip. Necropotence, really powerful black draw spell. Pay 1 life, draw a card. So unbelievably good, especially if we can get it out as early as turn 2. We can get so much further ahead. Harvester of the Souls, really powerful draw card, and it's also a big beater by itself. Love it. Phyrexian Arena, once again, drawing is very crucial in EDH, and Phyrexian Arena does what Bob does, but it does it for the guaranteed life loss of 1. Sylvan Library, for 8 life we can draw an additional 2 cards, or for 4 life we can draw an additional 1. Odds are, if our life total is at least 40, we will tend to try to draw 2 additional cards. If the life total is down around 30, probably just draw 1 additional card, just to try to get ahead of the game. Now we've got our tutors here. So first up, the standard Demonic Tutor. 2 mana, search for anything, really powerful, put it in your hand. Beseech the Queen, a little weaker than Demonic Tutor. Most of the time I will just cast it for 3 mana. The downside is it only lets you look for a card with CMC equal to or less than the number of lands you control, but odds are we'll want to get things that cost 3 CMC or less, with the exception of a Batter Skull. Worldly Tutor allows us to grab a creature dependent on the situation. If we're starting early game, we'll probably grab a Deathrite Shaman or an Oracle Moldiah. Later game, probably grab a Wormcoil Engine or a Kozilek. Increasing Ambition. I love this card. When it's in the yard, it becomes a double Diabolic Tutor. Really powerful. Vampiric Tutor, considered to be one of the top tutors in the format. Instant speed, 1 black mana, pay 2 life. Search your library for any card, put it on top of your library. It's just ridiculous. Green Sun Zenith. I need a Dryad Arbor still in order to just cast this for 1, but otherwise we will tend to cast this and grab a Deathrite Shaman, a Scavenging Ooze, or a Oracle Moldiah. Odds are we'll grab an Oracle Moldiah. Crop Rotation allows us to get either a Cabal Coffers, an Urborg, or a Boseiju out early game so that we can kind of set up our win conditions or just get ahead really quickly. Tooth and Nail, really messed up when you entwine it. Allows you to search for 2 of your big fatties and put them into play. Diabolic Tutor, just a standard tutor for every EDH deck that's running black, unless you have cheaper tutors, then run those. Expedition map, tutor for a land. Once again, the lands are pretty good in this deck, so we want to make sure that we can set up our proper land base as soon as possible. Next up, we have a couple of equipment cards that will help us win the game, either through Glissa or any other creature that we kind of suit up with all of this armor. So first we have the Loxodon Warhammer. Really love this. Because Glissa has Death Touch, it only needs to deal 1 damage to assign lethal to the defending creatures, so that X -1 damage will get through, where X is Glissa's power. And the lifelink's really great. That's why it's added here. Grafted Exoskeleton for the Infect win, to kind of end the game early. Dark Steel Plate, just really great, making the creature indestructible, and it's also indestructible. Skull Clamp to get value off the creature from a board wipe. Lightning Reefs, we will usually try to equip this to a Blightsteel ASAP to try to swing in for the game. Batterskull, lifelink is important, and also the +4/+4 and Vigilance are not bad as well. Sword of Light and Shadow, the life gain's relevant. Protection from white is really good. Sword of Fire and Ice, just a really powerful card. It's also a draw engine, and it allows us to pick off smaller creatures. Umezawa's Jite, with Glissa, is just ridiculous. Allows us to gain, we can gain 4 life, or just pump up Glissa. Yawgmoth's Will allows us to play any cards from our graveyard that we want to until the end of the turn. Beacon of Unrest allows us to get a creature card or an artifact from either our graveyard or any of our opponent's graveyards and put it into play for 5 mana. That can be really ridiculous if somebody has a Chroma's Memorial in the yard. Eternal Witness allows us to basically return a card that has fallen, and it allows us to regain value off of that card. Light from the Loam gets a dredge engine going and allows us to get our lands back from the yard. Crucible of Worlds. If Crucible of Worlds is out, I will tend to not play Light from the Loam as as often as I normally do. I usually cast Light from the Loam every turn if I can, but if Crucible's out, I'll do it once every 2 turns. Mikaeus the Unhallowed allows us to pump up our creatures, gives them the Anthem effect with the exception of the humans, and it also allows them to come back from undying. Croson Grip, Split Second, destroy target artifact and enchantment. Very powerful. All is Dust allows us to clear all the cards that are not colorless. Karn Liberated, just powerful control. Executioner's Capsule, really great with Glissa. 3 mana, kill a creature, put it back on the battlefield. Seems good. Scavenging Ooze, hates Reanimator kind of decks, and it also pumps itself and gains life. Mindslaver allows us to control an opponent until the end of their turn. Pernicious Steed, another board wipe. Next up, we got our beaters. So we got Kozilek Butcher of Truth, Terastodon, Lightsteel, and Wormcoil Engine. The lifelink is very good. And then the last but not least, we got our 2 powerful spells that will either win us the game or pull us extremely far ahead. And so for that, we got Exsanguinate for massive life gain and Genesis Wave for massive cards on the field.